You're watching Capital City Sunday.
President Joe Biden was in Madison this past week to unveil a new plan to provide relief to people with student loan debt. The administration is pushing for the elimination of accrued interest for 23 million borrowers, cancellation of student loan debt for 4 million borrowers, and providing at least $5,000 in debt relief to more than 10 million borrowers. Wisconsin Republicans called the proposal political pandering. Wisconsin Congressman Brian Stiles said it didn't get to the heart of the issue, which he says is the high cost of education. Joining us now is Dr. Maurice Sheppard, a political science professor at Madison College. Thanks so much for taking some time to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So first off, how do President Biden's frequent visits to Wisconsin over the last year or so underscore his campaign's intent to win the state in November?
Well, in political science, we use the phrase home style. And basically what that means is that one path to victory in an election during a campaign season is to go to where the voters are. Home style means going to meet the voters where they live, taking your jacket off, rolling up your sleeves and meeting them. So I think the two candidates, once again, for candidate Trump and candidate Biden, they have different styles now in terms of home style. For Trump, he's come to Wisconsin in a very minimal way. I'm sure that he will pick up the pace in terms of visiting Wisconsin, meeting with voters. Where President Biden, he's been very aggressive in terms of coming to Wisconsin right after this, once again, the State of the Union address. He visits Wisconsin. He was recently in Wisconsin. So I think both campaigns and both candidates understand the importance of coming to Wisconsin as a battleground state. Biden, I think, has been much more aggressive at it recently. And also, there's case history here in terms of it actually, once again, helping in terms of election outcomes. In 2008, then candidate Barack Obama made multiple visits to the state. He was able to beat Senator John McCain. 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton did not come to Wisconsin in a very aggressive way and lost to Donald Trump. 2016, Joe Biden was able to reverse that trend, made multiple visits to the state of Wisconsin, then was able to beat then the incumbent president, Donald Trump.
In Wisconsin, which voters will the candidates need to be courting here to strengthen their position in the presidential election come November?
The short answer is all of them, right? But the data and the demographics show that white working class workers will be key. In 2016, Donald Trump was able to sort of win that demographic. He was able to ultimately, again, win the election here in Wisconsin. In 2020, Joe Biden was able to flip that and was able to, again, sort of appeal to the white working class voters. So that particular demographic will be key for both candidates. But I have to say, though, that for both candidates, based on the results of the recent presidential primary, they both have work to do in terms of securing their base. The fact that for Trump, the Milwaukee suburbs and a number of counties, once again, and also the Milwaukee suburbs, that you had 15% of Republican voters vote for Nikki Haley, who had already suspended her campaign, should be a disturbing trend. That could possibly be seen as a protest vote among the base against Trump. And even on the left for President Biden, the uninstructed protest vote out there, particularly among college students, should also raise a red flag in terms of that the base of Democratic voters, that isn't as secure as the candidate would like it to be. So for both candidates, focus on the white working class vote, but also go back, resecure your base.
Inflation crept back up last month. There was a 3.5% increase for the 12 months ending in March, thanks mostly to gas and housing costs. Now, Republicans are hitting Biden hard on inflation. It's a key issue for Wisconsin voters and voters countrywide. So does this spell trouble for Democrats if inflation continues to remain stagnant?
Yes, it does. In terms of economic performance, that is always either number one or number two among Wisconsin, nationwide, but also here in Wisconsin, economic performance is always important to voters. During this political election cycle, though, it's unique that all of the professional economists point out that the U.S. economy and the Wisconsin economy, they're actually performing very well. However, stubborn inflation that's hurting people, as you point out, on sort of those basic items that we need: food, gas, and that sort. So for Donald Trump, focusing on the economy is a winning policy. Focusing on, particularly, once again, high inflation, that's a winning recipe for him. For Joe Biden, most would argue that he needs to continue to make his argument for the health of the U.S. economy, and in particular the Wisconsin economy. But he'll also probably pivot to what his campaign has been messaging is, once again, protecting democracy. One additional point in terms of, once again, trends and things to look at in terms of the outcome of the upcoming presidential election, I think of as sort of the wild card, which is reproductive rights. That even though the public polling in Wisconsin does not have reproductive rights as an issue like in the top 5 or so, it is still important. And I think reproductive rights will be important in terms of the intensity of the issue, being able to turn out voters. The assumption is that, I think in most cases, that a focus on reproductive rights will benefit the left. But I think that a focus on reproductive rights can also benefit those on the right in terms of, again, voter turnout, that you may have some individuals that otherwise may think about sitting out this election. But the issue of reproductive rights will get those individuals sort of out of their chair, off the couch, and to the voting place on election day. So economy, protecting democracy, but also I think reproductive rights will be important.
Dr. Maurice Sheppard, political science professor at Madison College, thank you so much for your insight and expertise this morning.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for this edition of Capital City Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us.